Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 295. Today we're going to talk about Istanbul, and this game just recently won the Kenner Spiel des Jahres. I've got the AEG edition. If you're over in Europe, you'll get an edition from Pegasus Spiel. It's a new Rudiger Dorn game, who's famous for Goa and Il Vecchio and Jambo and Traders of Genoa. And this game plays 2 to 5 players in about an hour, and I would say that's correct. And it did win the Kenner Spiel des Jahres, so it must be good, right? Well, let's go into the walkthrough, and then I'll come back and explain to you why it is good. Okay, here I've got the game set up for 2 players, and I just want to make a quick comment that this game plays great at every player count. That's very nice. The reason I set up for 2 players is just a slight, very minor rule change for 2 players, and I forgot to just show it to you here. Now, the idea of the game is that you're going to be getting these rubies. So normally in a 3+ player game, the first player to get 5 rubies and put them on their little wheelbarrow here is going to be the winner. In the 2-player game, you're going for 6 rubies. Now, how you're going to be doing that is moving a little stack here with your merchant. Everybody has a piece there with a little sticker of a face. And the merchant is carrying a stack of what the game calls assistants, basically these blank discs here. And since this is a Rudiger Dorn game, we're going to be moving from spot to spot, leaving a trail of guys. All right. So what you do on your turn is you very simply pick this guy up and then move him 1 or 2 spaces. Now you can't move diagonally. And then basically the spot that you move to, let's say you wanted to move over here to the tea house, you drop a guy off and then you take the action of the space. Now later on, I maybe will move up here to the spice warehouse and I'll take that spot. Now if I wanted to, I can move back here to the tea house. If I've already got a guy there, I pick him up and then I activate the space like that. So you can, through careful kind of planning, is build sort of a little chain of slight little combo of actions to do. Maybe go someplace here, get some goods, go to another spot, sell some goods, and kind of work yourself back and forth. Now the setup here I'm showing you is kind of the basic starter setup. There are other setups, and you basically take a look at the numbers here. So right now I've ordered them by the middle number. You could order them by the left number or the big number. Or you could just do it randomly as well. If you do it randomly, there's a couple of minor rules that you have to adhere to, like the fountain's got to stay in the center, and I forget, but one space has to be a certain number of spaces from another. Other than that, you can do it randomly. Because you will see after you play a particular setup a few times, sort of optimal little routes and strategies appear. So to keep the game fresh and interesting, and then you can mix everything up. So let's just talk about the different spaces. What do they do? Now the first type of space that you may activate are these different warehouses. So you can have a fabric, a spice warehouse, and you can see this says max red and max green. There is also another warehouse over here, the fruit warehouse, which is max yellow. And if you land and activate on one of those spaces, you can max out the appropriate good. So you can max out the fruit or the green or the red, and you just basically move it all the way across. Now as the game goes on, you will add little extra extensions for your wheelbarrow. In that case, you're going to get a little bit more bang for your buck when you go to those max spaces there. If you go here to the black market, you get one of those goods. You get either a red, a green, or a yellow, and then you can roll the 2 dice here, and then you take a look. That was a good roll. I got an 11. So if you get an 11 or 12, you get 3 blues. If you get a 7 or 8, you only get 1. If you get less than 7, you don't get anything. So you can see in that case, actually, the 11 would have been wasted because I only got 2 blues. That's still pretty good, but I didn't have any room for that extra blue. The next good collection type of space here is the post office, and everybody seems to really like this space. I like it as well. So if you go here, you can look at all of the visible icons. In this case, I would get a green, a yellow, and then $2. But after you visit the spot, you move this one down, so the next person to go there would get a red, a yellow, and $2. And then we move that down, and then you'd get a red, a yellow, and $3. And that one, the next player would get a red, a blue, and $3. And the next player would get $4 and a red or a blue, which is probably the best. And then after they visit it, in this case, then you just reset all of these back to the beginning. So interesting little mechanism there. Now we have 2 mosques in the game. We have the Great Mosque over here, and then we have the Small Mosque over there. Now when you go and visit this spot here, what you're going to do is buy one of these special ability tiles. Now since this is a 2-player game, we just have one that costs 2 and another one that costs 4. You can see the type of good there on the top is the cost. So if I wanted this ability here, I got to pay 2 blues. Now once you have 2 of these, both from that section, then you get to take a ruby. So that again gives you 1 step closer to victory. If you notice though, there is a player there. Now in the 2-player game, you take 3 of the merchants that are not of the color being used, and anytime you visit a spot that has a merchant there. So even if it was the yellow player was here, then that would also occur. So whenever I visit a spot that has the merchant, the one with the sticker on it, I've got to pay each of them $2 if I want to take the action. So in this case, I would pay $2 to the yellow player and then $2 to the bank, since we're playing 2-player and these 3 merchants here are kind of controlled by the game. Now in the case of the, we'll call it the NPC merchant, we're going to go ahead and roll 2 dice here. In this case I rolled a 9, and then we're going to move him to space 9. Anytime you roll dice for movement, you're always just going to look at the big number. So we're going to take him and move him all the way over here to the tea house. So the next player to land in the tea house will have to pay $2 for the bank. And so money is, you know, kind of tight, not too tight, but it is something that you have to keep in mind is where, you know, all these merchants are. So again, you can buy these 2 here. Again, you want to get in there cheaper so you don't have to pay the extra amount. And then you can also have here the red and green abilities. I'll explain the abilities in a second. I want to talk about all the spaces first. So there are 2 markets in the game. You've got the small market here and then the large market over here. And they both work the same way. And what you're going to do is look at the demand tile. There's a stack, I think 5 of each of these different demand tiles. And what you're going to do is look at, okay, how many goods do I have here? So this one wants a blue, a red, a yellow, and 2 greens. Well, let's say all I had was a red and 2 greens. I can go ahead and reduce those here on my wheelbarrow board. So just basically slide it back down. And in my case, I was able to satisfy 3 of the goods on the tile, then I would get $9. If I was able to satisfy all 5, I would get 20. And then the large market is the same here. It gives a little bit better of a payout because requires more blue goods. And remember, there's no max blue space. You know, the spot that you can get blue here is the black market there. So this is a little bit better of a payout here. You can see if you sell 5, you get $25. When you do that, you just take the demand tile here, stick it under the bottom, and then the next demand tile will show up for the next player to sell. Now, since we're on the space here, we have here the smuggler, and then we also have a governor token. Now, these are randomly placed on the board at the start of the game. When you move here, let's say we were yellow and we moved here, and we can choose to interact with them after we've taken our action here for the space. So the way that the smuggler works is we can do 2 things. We can take a good, we can gain a good. If we do that though, let's say we wanted to gain a blue good because they're tough to get, we have a choice. We can either pay another good back, or we can pay $2 here to the bank. Now, if you choose to do that, then again, you're going to roll 2 dice and then move the smuggler to the appropriate space. If you choose not to, the smuggler just stays where he is. Now the governor here is similar. You can draw a card, and then if you want, you can discard a card out of your hand, or you could even discard the card that you drew if you didn't like it. Now the other thing you can do also again is pay $2 if you really like all the cards in your hand and the one that you drew. And then again, you're going to roll and move him off. Now when cards are played or discarded, they're going to go here in this little spot. If you move to this spot here, then you can draw 2 cards. So you can either draw cards off the top of the deck or from the top of the discard pile here. And you can take the top 2 cards here, or 1 from each. And then you have to discard a card from your hand again. So it doesn't have to be one of the 2 you drew, it can just be any card. Now there is another dice rolling spot here. So if we landed over here, this is an interesting fun spot. Here you get the name and number between 3 and 12, and then you're going to roll the dice. So let's say I had named 8, and then I roll here a 9. If you roll equal to or higher than the number you named, in this case that would be true, then I will get that much money in coins. So if I named 8, rolled equal to or higher than 8, I would get 8. If you fail, you always get a consolation of $2. So if you were feeling really lucky, you could name like 11, and then I didn't get 11 or higher, so I'd only get $2 instead of 11. Next, we've got the warehouse here, and you can pay $7, and that's how you add these little tokens here to your wheelbarrow to get more and more goods. Once I get my 3rd one there, then I can take the ruby from that space, and that is another way to get rubies. So now, so far, we've seen 3 ways to get rubies. One here is to max out your wheelbarrow spices. One is to get those 2 special abilities and these 2 special abilities. Now there's another spot, 2 spots, where you can get rubies as well, and you can get multiple rubies. And these you can only get 1 ruby from there, 1 ruby from there, and 1 ruby from there. Now these spots here, the Sultan's Palace, this is interesting. Now again, this is set up for 2 players. The ruby configuration here is a little different. And you can, I've seen people even forego the special abilities and the wheelbarrows and just go for these 2 spots I'm going to show you. Interesting strategy. So there's an interesting balance between a couple of ways to go. So here, if you go land here, you can spend a blue, a red, a green, a yellow, and then anything, and you get the ruby. Now the next guy, he has to get a blue, a red, a green, a yellow, anything, and another blue, and again, the price is going to keep going up. So you want to get in here early as well, you know, so the price isn't too high when you get there. Now a similar spot here is the gemstone dealer. And the first guy in a 2-player game has to pay 15 bucks, and then the next guy will pay 16, 17, 18, it goes all the way up. So another one that you want to get in early before it gets too expensive. Now the last spot on the board here is the police station. So if I moved over here, let's say I moved this guy over here, activate the police station, I can send my family member out to any spot on the board and activate that spot. The interesting thing about that is when you send a family member, you don't have to pay, you know, merchants $2, and you don't get to interact though with any of the governor or smuggler tokens. But it's interesting, so if you're kind of working, you know, one area and you go, gosh, I got a lot of money, but it's going to give me a while to get over there, I can send my family member over here to the gemstone dealer and maybe grab a gem. Now, if somebody else, let's say the red player, come over here and he activates this spot where there is a family member, or there could even be multiple, this family member gets sent back to the police station. They're like little thieves or something. And then the red player has a choice of getting either $3 or drawing a card off the top of the deck. So let's quickly go over the cards. There's just different ways to break the rules here. So this one here, instead of moving 1 or 2 spaces, you can stay in the same spot. This one lets you grab a assistant and put it back underneath your merchant. So if you're getting low on that, that's nice. This one just gives you a good of your choice. This one actually lets you move your own family member back to the police station and then get a card or $3. This one here lets you move 3 or 4 spaces instead of 1 or 2. And this another one gives you like $5. Some of these will let you activate a space twice. So the post office, you can do it twice, which is really cool. And then, you know, so there's a few of these. And then let me talk about the 4 different special abilities now. Now, the blue special ability here, you can see this is 5, and this is your 5th assistant. And everybody has an assistant off the board that they'll be able to put under their stack in the instant they buy this. The yellow one here, once per turn, you can pay $2 and then again, grab an assistant and put it back under your stack. Can be helpful. This one, anytime you do one of these 2 dice rolling spots, so if you go to the black market and you're trying to get the blues, or you're trying to use the tea house, you know, where you call the number and roll, here you can take and turn one of those dice you rolled to a 4. So that's pretty helpful. That'll get you out of a pinch. And the green one here is interesting. So when you go one of these max spaces, so let's say we went here to the fruit warehouse, we maxed out yellow. Now if we had the green ability here, we could pay $2 and get 1 of a different kind of good. So we maxed out yellow, and then we could pay $2 and get like a blue or a red, just 1 of those. So the game's gonna just keep playing until a player gets either 5 or in a 2-player game, 6 rubies. And everybody does get an equal number of turns. So you can see here's the start player marker. So if yellow finished the game, got his 6 ruby, red would still have 1 more turn to equal him. There are some different tiebreakers, basically most money, then if the most money's tied, whoever has the most leftover goods, and so on. So that's pretty much how you play the game. Okay, hope you enjoyed the overview, and as I said in the walkthrough part, this does really play well at all the player counts. I will say, if you had to hold my feet to the fire, you know, I like probably a 4, maybe 5. I like to have a lot of players in the game because you have a lot of interaction with, you know, not really blocking, but, you know, if I go here, I know that you want to go there, or I can kind of see some of the routes and stuff that you're doing, so I'll try to get in your way so that it costs you a little bit more, so you have to change your plans. Now, even with the 2-player though, you have that with the sort of randomized, you know, merchants that I showed you in the walkthrough. So I like that. It's a very, very simple little variant for 2-player. It takes almost no thought and no fiddle to execute that. And the game still is fun because it's very much a racing game anyway. So there's not a lot of, you know, direct interaction and attacking, but when you add more players, there is definite interaction. I would say it is not a multiplayer solitaire game once you get around like 4 or 5 players. The best part of the game is the configurability or randomization of those tiles on the board. Because if you just played the basic layout, you're going to kind of get to know, okay, well, the red and the green one are here next to the ability to rebuy the red and green, so you can do a little loop there really quickly. So if somebody jumps out there, you know, the first player is going to have a little bit of an advantage there, so to speak. Well, not really, but you can see those little tendencies start to happen, and you know, you get into familiar patterns that way with just using the same layout. But you use the other two layouts, or then as you start to play more, you can do the randomized layouts. So then you can start to see a little bit of variation. I don't want to oversell that too much. I feel like I am a little bit, but it's enough to keep you playing the game and coming back to it. You know, you play it 1 week and you give it a couple of weeks, come back, randomize it up, and then play again. So it is cool. I do like some of the randomization parts of the game. I really like the space where you call it a number and roll, because it's on you. You know, you can be conservative. I can say 5, you know, and then roll. And then if you have a die that turns it to a 4, you're automatically going to get it. Or you can kind of push your luck there a little bit if you're running behind the 8 ball on money. You can say 8 or 9 or something, because if you got that 4 ability, your chances of getting that are slightly improved. So 7 or 8 isn't such a bad call, you know, if you have that ability. So it plays really smoothly. It's very enjoyable because you can set up little combinations for yourself as you kind of you know, breadcrumb it around the board. So that's a very satisfying way to play. And the components are really good, and all that kind of good stuff too. I can definitely see this, you know, why it won the Kenner Spiel des Jahres. What were the other nominees? I'm forgetting. Concordia and Rococo. Well, I wouldn't really put this, okay, this is interesting. So I would probably rank Concordia a little bit higher than this one right now. But the thing is this is a little bit more variability. Now, they just announced an expansion map for Concordia. So that probably would cement Concordia for me as my kind of go-to between the two games. I mean, the only reason I'm comparing them is because they were both nominated. They're really kind of different games. This was a little bit more family-friendly, and you know, the components kind of convey that too, because Concordia's components, it's kind of ugly. But this will sell it on the one side, and it's easy to pick up and play, you know, in a light environment, you know, kind of a family environment. As a 2 or 3 player game, is a kind of easygoing game. But you can get really kind of technical with it. So it straddles that nice light to medium balance there. So anyway, that's Istanbul. Definitely take a look at it. Thanks.